Hey y'all, what's up? Thank you so much for tuning in and watching my channel Fervently Anchored. If you don't know who I am, my name is Sydney. This video currently follows under my Mada Chronicles playlist, where I'll be talking about everything Madagascar and the Peace Corps. And in today's video, we'll be talking about being Black in the Peace Corps, and specifically being Black in being Black. What? Why is that so hard to say? Specifically. Whoa, slow down. In this video, we will talk about being Black in the Peace Corps, and specifically being Black in Madagascar. And so today I have recruited some of my other Peace Corps Madagascar volunteer friends. I was gonna post the video that me and my friend Gabby recorded in Madagascar about being Black in Madagascar, but I was just too high off life. I was messing up words. I think I was still thinking in Malagasy, but translating in English. It was just all over the place. I'll post it on my Instagram because it is something worth sharing. But stay tuned to see the views of other volunteers. It's going to be great. So happy Black History Month. Hope you all enjoy this.
Hi, I'm Gabby. I'm a volunteer in Madagascar. I live on the East Coast. And
Ooh,
I'm
East Coast, West Coast.
Facts. And I'm going to talk about my experience as a Black PCV, aka Black Peace Corps volunteer. So I think that overall, as a Black volunteer, it's a lot easier for us to integrate because we look like the people we live with. So there's that easy connection. But as well, on the flip side, a lot of people don't know that there are Black people in America, so oftentimes our Americanness is questioned. People will say things such as, are you African or are you Malagasy? Because we look Malagasy, African. And then we'll have to explain, no, our families, sure, are descendants of Africa, but we are American. People are often confused. They ask and say things such as, well, one of your parents must be African. And no, they're both Black Americans. And then we'll get comments such as, but are you pure American? What does that mean? I don't know. But yes, I'm definitely pure American. All of us Black Americans are. So yeah, that's definitely a challenge, constantly having to defend being American, even though I am very American.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Manzanillo, and I served as a Peace Corps volunteer in the country of Madagascar from 2017 until 2020. I was placed in the southeastern highlands of Madagascar in the community of Sahambavi. As an Afro-Latina and Black Peace Corps volunteer, I had an overall wonderful experience serving in Madagascar. One of the things I really enjoyed was being able to connect with the community and being able to blend in for other volunteers who were not volunteers of color, who were not Black. They stood out within their community. And for me, it wasn't until I spoke and they noticed the accent that they knew that I was a foreigner. During my site visit, people were mahagaga. So mahagaga means very surprised to find out that I was not Malagasy. And then at first they were like, is she Métis? Is she mixed? And no, she's American. They ended up dubbing me the Malagasy Vaza, so the Malagasy foreigner, which was pretty funny.
Hi, my name is Raven Gaddy, and I was a volunteer in Peace Corps Madagascar from September 2018 until March 2020. I served in a city called Diego Suarez in the far north, and I think for me, being a Black Peace Corps volunteer was a very interesting experience, both from the Malagasy side and from the Peace Corps side. From the Malagasy side, it was very dependent on where I was located. So during the training, we were in the Highlands, and a lot of the people are fairer skinned, even though they are still brown, they have straighter hair, and that wasn't my reality. And so while I had a really, really wonderful host family, I didn't really feel like I fit in ever while I was in training. I mean, my host family was fantastic. I still talk to my host mom to this day, but as far as like feeling part of the community, that just wasn't a reality for me. And then once I moved to my site in Diego Suarez, the coast of Madagascar is very dark skinned, very kinky hair. I kind of immediately felt at home. And then when I actually moved to site, I just instantly felt like I was part of the community. And obviously there's still some cultural differences and things that are normal for me that are not quite normal for people that live in Madagascar. But at the same time, I often felt that I never had a problem fitting in.
Well, as a Black volunteer in Madagascar, I was perceived a couple of ways, depending on, based on whose perception. So I was never seen as American. I wasn't that kind of foreigner. But I was seen as Malagasy, African, like mainland African, not, island of Madagascar African. But certainly Malagasy or African. And I got those almost equally.
So how I was perceived in Madagascar, if I was by myself, people would think I was Malagasy. I look Malagasy. No matter what region I was in, I looked Malagasy. And so what happened was I would just get treated like a Malagasy woman until I opened my mouth. And then some people, if they were bold enough, which a lot were, they would ask, why do I speak weird? Like, why do I speak like that? And so then I would have to go and explain that, I'm American, I speak English, but I'm a Black American. And sometimes they'd be like, so you're Matisse, which means mixed. Like, so they'll think I'm Malagasy, and then they'll think I am mixed with a white American. Because when they say American, most of the time they assume it's a white person. And I'd be like, no, I'm not mixed. Both of my parents were Black. And so then they're confused. And so I have to, in my broken Malagasy, explain like the history of slavery and why there's black people in America. But then also explain like white people are not the native people to North America, America, the United States, and try to explain that in broken Malagasy. And sometimes people understand because, Madagascar was colonized by the French. But sometimes people wouldn't. And so and I just want to know, like, sometimes when people like those conversations where I would be like, oh, I'm Black, they weren't all negative. Like, some people would be like, what, you're Black? And then this was mostly like in the larger towns, they'll say it in English like, oh, Black is beautiful, my sister, and stuff like that. And I don't know where they got that from, but I loved it. I was just like, yes, Black is beautiful. And so you would have those instances where people knew, they didn't know that you were Black, but they know that there are Black people in America. And so that was pretty beautiful to experience. Some of the bonding moments that I had with my site was it was everything, honestly. It was from the kids feeling comfortable being with me and being at my house because they look like me. Like, they weren't scared of my skin. They weren't scared of my eyes. Like, they saw me in them, and it was beautiful. I was able to share some American culture, whether it be like my Black culture, whether it be food, or I'll be able to share hairstyles. Y'all know that little side twist that I be doing. Like, I did that to like almost all my friends. I did my friend's Marley twist, and so I was able to bond with them. I would stay doing mini twists on folks, but that was a great bonding experience that I know how to do because we did it back at home, or I did it on myself, and so that was really cool.
So, some of the best things about being Black in Madagascar, the dancing.
Ayy.
Everyone loves dancing. Mm-hmm. And I think that we can all agree that Black people in America also love dancing. So it's always fun to just dance with your community members You never have to be afraid or ashamed to get up and dance. You never have to be embarrassed. You can just do whatever you want and have a good time. Also, I think just that overall feeling connected because we all are Black. Something I often feel excited about is connecting with people on like a hair level. People before me at my site were both white females, so obviously they didn't have the same hair texture. So yeah, just having people experiment on my hair and just making comments like, wow, your hair feels just like mine, and your hair can hold styles like mine, or just like teaching people about different hairstyles, such as what they call rasta here, but it's just like a twist.
I had a lot of bonding moments. There were times where I would just walk down the street and people would call me sister. People would say, hey, I hear you're American, but you look like me, and that makes me happy. It makes me feel like I can move beyond Madagascar and that I could travel the world like you do. And that was just something that was really special that I don't think all volunteers are able to get.
Oh, the biggest bonding moments I had were definitely with my host family. Amazing people, teaching me the language and the nuances of the language, helping me to understand nuance in the language, which really helped my language skills improve. You know, bonding over food, bonding over culture, bonding over dance and singing. Awesome bonding moments, and learning new dances, teaching them like American dances to do the Malagasy songs. A lot of fun.
Although I did enjoy being incognito as a Peace Corps volunteer, meaning like sometimes people didn't know that I was not Malagasy, it did come with its challenges, and I experienced a fraction of the challenges that many of the women in Madagascar experience. And this became more evident when you would enter spaces that would cater more to foreigners and people of higher class. They're like, what is this girl doing here? That's before they would know that I was actually also a foreigner and a Peace Corps volunteer serving in Madagascar. They would think that I was there to like ask for money or sell something, which is just a very small fraction of what Malagasy people experience when they are in these spaces.
Some of the struggles I think I faced, like I said before, being in the Highlands and not looking like the people, but also not looking like the typical volunteer was very jarring. But even at my site, I would have that because I lived at a place that had very, very many tourists, very many Europeans, some Americans, and still having people look me in my face and not legitimize me as the American as I was. And I think even in the classroom, some of my students didn't respect me because they thought I was lying. They thought that I was just, some African girl who was pretending to be American, and oftentimes even being corrected in my own native language. So I felt like that was something that was very difficult, but not something that would altogether, discourage me from staying at site and kind of immersing in the culture as much as I can.
I think some of my biggest, so also another struggle was like the amount of death during the measles outbreak, compounded with malaria. I don't think that has anything to do with Blackness or my Blackness, but but at the same time, there is a kinship to people. I feel like even more so because these people look like my aunties, they look like my cousins, they look like my sisters. I mean, not my sisters, my friends' family. They looked like my family. And so there's just something indescribable about, seeing that amount of death all at once.
As well, I think just overall, sometimes being viewed as less than white volunteers. I think that's just across the board wherever you go, unfortunately. So yeah, I think that as Black volunteers, we just have to fight to not only get the message across about Black culture and Black culture within the United States, but it's difficult because we have to explain, not for ourselves, but the Black people overall in America. And of course, we can't speak on everyone's experience and everyone's life, but we have to do our very best to represent Black Americans to the best of our ability, which is a difficult task, but we do the best we can.
When I was with other volunteers, specifically white volunteers, and like my white male site mate, people would think that I was a Malagasy woman and he was a French man and I was his girlfriend. And so sometimes like I'll be playing with a baby next to him and people would think that that was our baby, or we'll be on the bus together talking in English, and I would have snide comments of like men coming to me like, oh, like, why don't you like Malagasy men? Like, why'd you choose like the white man over us? And so those are kind of like tough times where I have to like either explain or I just ignored them because I knew the truth. And so I'm not going to like, let their comments irritate me. I had to realize that, once I said that I was American, there was privilege that came with that. Sometimes, that's all I had to say. Like, they'll be treating me, I remember this one time I was trying to get bus information from one of the local bus stands. I was trying to go home, and he was basically ignoring me. And my host mom back in my site pointed him out and said, if you ever need help, ask him. And so I had to say, like, do you know my host mom? Like, she told me to come to you and things like that. And he was like, wait, who are you? And I had to like explain like who I was. I was a Peace Corps volunteer. He's like, oh, you're American. Like, and he completely changed his attitude and like helped me and was moving really fast. And so while that was helpful in the moment, it was also kind of annoying as to like why did I have to go through that? Like, why did I have to be treated less than until you found out that I was American?
Being Black within the Peace Corps community was like, when I was with like the volunteer group at large, it was like being at work as a Black person in a predominantly white company, institution. It was like being at work. When we would go out as groups, everything was deferred. Deference was to white volunteers because deference is to white people, because white tourists generally spend, much more loosely than like Malagasy people.
As far as being Black in the Peace Corps community, I really think that it's something that is special, but it's something that you struggle with. Having having American friends, but American friends that don't really understand you is just, I don't know, like I feel a bit torn about that. And that's why I actually spent the second half of my service trying to develop a group for African-American volunteers to kind of have bonding, kind of have a safe space to talk about being in Peace Corps. Having volunteers that you encounter that have had people at their site tell them that they don't want them because they're Black. Having people be spit at, things thrown at, and just being abused because of the color of their skin, even though the color of that skin is the same as the people that we were serving, can just be a very traumatic experience. And I think having a safe space is really important. And I think maybe we only had about 20 Black volunteers on the entire island, but we were so spaced out that it wasn't really feasible for us to always see each other. Like for me, being all the way in the north, we couldn't even travel by ground to the capital and to be able to, see people. We always had to fly because of safety reasons. And for a very long time, I never saw any Black volunteers. And eventually I did get kind of a site mate that was very close, but it can be a very lonely and very kind of difficult experience when you're already experiencing so much as far as culture shock. You may be dealing with sickness, you may be dealing with struggling in the classroom and teaching, or whatever sector you're in. There's always some sort of occupational adjustment period. I think being able to travel to the continent as a Black person from the United States is really important, because I think sometimes we are very insulated in our culture. So obviously, Black people in the United States coming in during the slave period, we had our culture taken from us, and we have built up this wonderful, this illustrious, this very colorful African American culture, but we can't forget that there are other Black people around the world. And so being able to travel to Madagascar, I've traveled to Kenya, I've lived in Morocco, being able to connect with people that have brown skin in other countries, particularly on the continent, is just something that I believe is really, really, really important. And I don't regret any of my experiences, even though they can be difficult at times.
Being Black in Madagascar was such a dynamic experience for me. There were so many like highs and a couple of lows, but overall it was a beautiful experience. I think that being a Black American and not having a definitive understanding of where my ancestry comes from, it was such a warming experience to be in Africa and Madagascar. I look Malagasy, as I've gotten that from numerous Malagasy people, from family back home. And so to be and to wake up surrounded by individuals that look like me, that was kind of like a parallel universe. I would be like, wait, what? Like, it was such a beautiful thing, but it was completely different from, you know, being here in America.
Okay, and finally, what it means to be Black in Africa. It's freeing. It is so freeing to not think on the same level about race. I think because I'm American, I am just hyper aware of my race no matter where I go. But to be in Africa, to be in Madagascar, which is not a completely Black African nation, it is a Black and brown nation, but the majority of the people there are Black. I can be there and blend into the background, blend into the fold, disappear. Talking to some of the elders in my village and some of the people that are very familiar with the history of Betsimisaraka people, and learning that the people that were exported, the people that were exported, that were stolen from their land and sent to the Americas, you know, into slavery, one of the main tribes that were most affected by that atrocity were the Betsimisaraka. I didn't even know slaves were sent from Madagascar, let alone the tribe that I was placed with. And I find that so, like, to have that connection and to have that reality, like, in my space, and to, I don't know that whether I'm Malagasy or not. I don't, you know, I can't tell you if any percentage of me is. The fact that I speak the language, specifically, you know, one of the dialects I speak is that of the Betsimisaraka people, the tribe whose culture I, you know, was placed and was welcomed into with open arms, and was just taught so much about the beauty of, was Betsimisaraka. And, you know, that was one of the tribes that were most heavily affected by slavery in Madagascar. To have that connection from experience, from culture, language that I still speak, I will never forget that, and I would never want to trade that in. Something that was stolen from us, from our, you know, that from our history, and that we're now connected to, that I am connected to on more than a molecular level, but an intellectual level, on a spiritual level, on a personal level. You know, it's just so beautiful and freeing.
So yeah, being a Black American is difficult at times, but we have the opportunity to celebrate our Blackness and to educate people on our Blackness and what it's like to be Black in America. So, yeah.
But overall, I felt very welcome, very loved by my community, and I felt like my role as a Black American, a Black Peace Corps volunteer was very important because I felt like a lot of the young women there in particular were inspired to see someone that looked like them in a leadership position, making positive impact with their skills and talents. And it was a message that I was able to really instill in them, to just kind of like follow their goals and community with responsibility, and to serve as a role model for the generations to come.
I wouldn't discourage Black people from serving in the Peace Corps. It's just a very cognizant thing to know that you might be the only one, either in your group or in your region or in the entire country, although I'm not sure how much that happens.
At the end of the day, even though, you know, all of those struggles seem very annoying, and sometimes, you know, you're just having a bad day and they get to you, you have to, at least for me, I just try to remember that it's not their fault. I think that it's a matter of lack of education about like what America really truly looks like. And, you know, that's not their fault. That's America's fault. And so, you know, while we're there as volunteers, it was very important for me and a lot of like other Peace Corps volunteers, not just Black Peace Corps volunteers, but other Peace Corps volunteers of color, to educate people about the diversity that is America and the diversity that is in America, and how diversity makes us beautiful, you know, and makes us proud to be. That's why we are proud to be American. Thank you all so much for watching this video. I hope it was helpful and you got a little more insight of what it means to be a Black volunteer, but more specifically a Black volunteer in the Peace Corps. Y'all, I said it without getting tongue-tied. I was about to, okay? But stay tuned for more videos. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate y'all.